Hello, everybody. Oh god, I messed around a bit. I thought I had it going, and then I thought it didn't work. So I clicked it away, and then it was the whole stream that I clicked away. So, um, now I still have some figuring out to do. So bear with me for a second. Okay. So yeah. Hello, Jason. Windmolen, jongen. Vic. Samantha, honey. Thank you. Um. So yeah, what I've got organized for tonight is 4 topics that was in the news this week, Formula One news this week. Hello, Patrick. Welcome. All my friends are here. Feels so good. I don't have any friends in real life, so I need them online. So I've got 4 topics. I've got Alonso, who signed with Aston Martin. I had that completely wrong in the past weeks. And then there's Andretti, who bought a building because they're not going to be brushed aside. Then there's Max's teammates, because there's still a lot of talk about who's going to get that second Red Bull seat. And then as the last topic, I want to talk about the China race that we are having for the first time in 5 years. So, yeah, let's get started. So what I prepared, let me see how I can do this without messing it all up too much. Okay. Okay, and then here we have the news article. Alonso signed a new deal with Aston Martin to end speculation over F1 future. Look at that smile. He's all happy. Where I thought he was really unhappy. So he signed a multi-year deal. Which will take him into the new regulations. So here's a nice picture where he says that he's here to stay. So let's look at what my crack said about it. And I'm getting to a stage where I'm not making any more jokes about my crack. We have been in constant dialogue over the last few months, and Fernando has been true to his word. When he decided he wanted to continue racing, he talked to us first. Fernando has shown he believed in us. He believes in us, and we believe in him. Fernando is hungry for success, driving better than ever. He's fitter than ever, and he's completely dedicated to making Aston Martin Aramco a competitive force. So yeah, he goes on about how it will take them into the new regulations, and he will also start using the Works Power Unit partnership with Honda. So he's going to be driving a Honda again. We'll talk more about that later. Aston Martin is 5th in the constructor standings at the minute, which is a little underwhelming. But then if you look at how well McLaren and Ferrari are doing, I think the best spot they can get is 4th place. You know? So let me see if there's any quotes from Hamilton and Alonso himself. No. Okay. Let me turn the screens. Yes. And Hello, Gentiles. Richard, welcome. How nice of you to join. Um, Let me look at the chat first, and then I'll just have my rant about this deal. Jason says Alonso will stay till 2030. That's longer than Verstappen. And Windmolenjongen says, just wait until you find out about our Willie. Someone says, I love our Willie and the Bruins. And Richard says, Aston Martin is just Alonso. Stroll is useless. Yeah, that's quite a topic. And Jason says, hopefully Stroll goes to WEC. And Patrick says, Aston Martin is lucky because Alonso carries them. And Windmolens or Vic says, Samantha, my hometown stuff. Okay, so let me start at the start. I saw this interview Alonso had with Sky Sports F1. And he was probably in the middle of making that deal with Aston Martin. And he was playing with Aston Martin and with us. Well, with me anyway, because I'm a little gullible. And if I see a 42-year-old man who can't keep a relationship because he's always working, talking about the sacrifice he has to make. And, you know, I tried to get fit when I was 34, about 10 years ago. No, 12 years ago. And at that age, it's hard. So staying fit at age 42 is extremely hard. So for him to be the way he is, that is a massive, massive sacrifice. You know, where I can choose to get a carry out and have pizza and, eat chocolate and everything. A guy like Alonso has to weigh everything, and he has a trainer, and, I think he spends 6-8 hours per day with his sport just to keep fit. And then on top of that, there's the traveling, and it's just a massive sacrifice. And I don't care if you get paid 10 million or 20 million or 30 million a year. There's a certain level of wealth you can gather. And, you don't feel any better through it. Like somebody with 125 million isn't happier than somebody with 124 million in his bank account. So I honestly said, I thought when he said that he wasn't sure if he was going to continue, it sounded a bit like Vettel when he said he wasn't sure if he was going to continue. And Vettel quit, but then, he's got a couple of kids and Alonso doesn't. But it turns out that Alonso was only doing it to get more money, get a better deal out of Aston Martin, or maybe he was sort of playing the field to see if a better team was interested. But anyway, I made that stupid video about Alonso retiring, and now he's let me down because he signed a new deal. But in the end, I'm happy enough because, we're going to be insured of a couple of spicy radios, and there's always something tense when Alonso and Hamilton have to fight each other. It hasn't happened this season yet, but last season it was awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. Aston Martin hopefully will improve as well next year. And then Ferrari being already good, they might get into, we might get to see Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari and Alonso in Aston Martin scraps, which would be awesome. So yeah, I have huge respect for Fernando Alonso to be this fit and still this motivated to have a contract for 2 years that will take him up to being 44, and still going strong. I'm quite thankful to enjoy him on the track, because there was a few years that he was out. So I'm going to the chat now to see what's been said because it's been kind of busy. Samantha says, my dad's from Wick, so he introduced me at 11. And there's Versa. It's the man, it's the myth, it's the legend. It's Wimbo West. Okay. Hi Versa, welcome. Okay, Samantha, I'll fix the light. Oh, and Samantha, if you're looking for the cat, for Aldo, oh, he's here. See, I thought it was kind of convivial to have, you know, the the changing lights on, but the missus says that I'm not allowed. So yeah. Um. Okay, so I fixed the light, Samantha. You're welcome. Versa says, can't put a price on love, eh? Alonso's life is Formula One. And Jason says, luckily for Alonso, men don't have biological clocks. So Alonso can wait until he's 50 and then knock up a 20-year-old. He probably will. I mean, I think even Bernie Eccleston is still having babies. And he's 104. Um, Jason says, I think as long as Alonso is ahead of Hamilton, he'll stay. He loves the drama. I agree. And we also love the drama. We need the drama with Verstappen winning everything. And Versa says, perfect point, Wheel Sport. Your muscles are the only tissue that can age backwards, and gut health goes a long way. He probably wakes up feeling 20. I have really good gut health. That's why my gut's so big. And Richard says, all the time you have to leave the space. Oh, I'll try to say it in the accent. All the time you need to leave the space. And Patrick says, I also genuinely think they will have a rocket ship in 2026. Yeah, well, if I have to believe all the stories, then Mercedes will have a rocket ship because they can build really good engines, just like in 2014. Then Red Bull powertrains, with all the knowledge they've learned from Honda, they will have a rocket ship. And then Honda itself, they will have a rocket ship. And Ferrari, they start every new season with 30 to 100 horsepower more than the competition. So it's all going to be rocket ships. That's what I think. Versa says, the light is a bit distracting. Haha. Yeah, it's gone now, yeah? Richard says, Aldo is the mascot. Yep. And Jason says, yeah, versatile. It's true. In that kind of physical condition, someone at 42 would feel late 20s. I wish I had that sort of discipline. And Richard says, I see who wears the pants in the house. And that's only because the camera's on. You know better, Richard. Samantha says, thank you. First says, I am throwing my life away before I'm even 20. Haha. Live a happy and short life, eh? And then Jason says, yeah, Racing with Rico. I reckon in 2026 there's a good chance that Aston will be title contenders. 100% mate, stress is the biggest killer. And Patrick says, Wheel Sports, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Ferrari will be ahead, but with Honda, it will be close. Versa says, have you heard the rumors that Sainz signed a 2-year deal with Mercedes? Well, yeah, you missed the start, Versa, but I'm going to have a talk about, Max's teammates, and we'll discuss Sainz in there, okay? It's topic number 3. Vic says, Alonso is one of these drivers that should have at least 3 titles. He may yet have a shot in 2026. In my unicorn world, that would be magnificent. Yeah, of course, that would cause such a scene if Alonso wins another championship at age 44. That would be awesome. And Jason says the issue is for Mercedes. Their aero department isn't in shape, and the engine changes for 2026 are nowhere near as big as 2014. So the advantage Merc can have with the engine will be lost with aero, in my opinion. Yeah, I heard that too. I heard that too. But I was reacting at everybody saying rocket ship, rocket ship, rocket ship. I wasn't talking about the aero. Um, First, I was asking Patrick again about the Discord. Yeah, I forgot to ask you, Patrick. So if you have Discord, then first I would like to add you and chat with you. First, I says Alonso is a cutie. And Jason says Alonso will get a title winning in 2026 and retire after winning his 8th in 2032. Okay. Versa says James Allison isn't as reliable without an engine leaps ahead of the field. No, that's true. Like the strong engine and the aero that complemented it made the 2014 till 2020 championships a guarantee. So, yeah, do you think we can close off the Alonso part now, or is there more questions about it? I see we're all having a nice chat amongst ourselves, which is nice. I like it. Okay, well I'll go on to the next topic then. So I have to turn on my sharing of the screen again, and then the second thing I have here is Andretti F1 team formally opens new Silverstone facility. The new Andretti Global facility at Silverstone was opened by Michael and Mario Andretti on Thursday as the team took another step towards a place on the Formula One grid. The team was granted an entry by the FIA in October, but failed to pass the second stage of the process when F1 didn't approve its bid. In a statement issued on January 31st, the project thus remains in limbo while discussions continue behind the scenes. Andretti is pushing ahead with the plans, and the new facility is a high-profile sign, and it shows that they're very ambitious. Yeah, so it's a 40,000 square foot facility with an aero department already situated there, and it's a good spot to be in Silverstone. There's still a lot of stuff done in Charlotte by General Motors. If an entry is ultimately granted for 2026, the plan remains to use Renault power units for the first 2 seasons under the new regulations, before a switch to Cadillac power plant in 2028. Michael Andretti says F1 is obviously the pinnacle of auto racing in the world. We're all in different types of racing series, but to be in F1 is at the top, and so that's why I think for our brand it'd be huge. And it'll just complete our goal, and that is to be in every single major sporting racing event in the world, and then obviously going to F1 is the top of that. So it's a big goal. It's been a big goal of ours for years now, and we are right there. We're going to be there, and we feel very strongly that we're going to be there. And then he talks about the Cadillac partnership. The collaboration with General Motors is fantastic. Hearing how everyone's working together across time zones. Technology allows things to happen in real time. It's so exciting. So just to continue to capitalize on that opportunity, we want to keep building. This is an important step today, and we'll continue to build. It's a lot more of the same. So yeah, um, it's going to be a big story. All American team in the end, with a car being built in the US with an American engine, American owners, and eventually American drivers. So it's always cool to do something that has never been done before. Okay, and then this thing can go off. And there's me again. Okay. So the whole Andretti thing, it's complicated because I feel that F1, the FOM, the organizers, um, they're looking forward to having more constructors, no more factory teams on the grid, and no more customer teams. Now with Audi coming in, that's another manufacturer coming in, and eventually GM with Cadillac coming in. That's another engine supplier. And in an ideal world, I think they want to have 10 different engines on the grid, 10 different brands fighting each other. And politically, that would be great too, because, there's people complaining about Red Bull owning two teams. Then, as a counter argument, people say, well, Ferrari and Haas, they're always voting for the same thing politically. And as for Mercedes, the Mercedes customer teams are also always kind of voting for what Mercedes is voting for. And with 10 different manufacturers, you won't have that problem, because they will all be single units voting for their own best interest. Then what F1 said is F1 doesn't need a new team, because it would benefit Andretti more than it would benefit F1. I kind of agree with that with the cost cap, even the worst team scoring barely any points can come out with a profit. And all of a sudden, all these teams were worth $500 million more. And then all of a sudden, a new team wants to join. So I think Formula One is pushing Andretti to get everything sorted, like for 100%, that they're guaranteed to be at least midfield when they come in. Instead of having another team that comes in and performs like Haas in 2021, scoring no points and only be driving around in circles without a benefit. Well, I once had a live stream with Jason, or a podcast, about whether an 11th and even a 12th team would be a good idea. And I have some reservations about that with these large cars, with cars driving in each other's road during, impeding during quali, and, pit boxes not good enough or not big enough. But then the counter argument for that was that if you take in a new team, then it will force F1 to do something about these super large cars, and the circuits will have to get more space to get those new pit boxes ready. So in a way, that wouldn't be an argument to not let Andretti in. Personally, what he said about eventually having American drivers, I don't follow IndyCar or anything, so I'm not sure if there's proper talent in America that's good enough for Formula One. If we have to go by Logan Sargent, then doesn't look very hopeful. Yeah. What else is there to say about Andretti? I admire how much guts they're showing, because you know these buildings and all these investments, they don't come cheap. We're talking about hundreds of millions already. They're investing, and at this minute, they don't even have a guarantee that they'll come in. Um, in a way, I think they're forcing F1's hand by preparing so much to get the public opinion going, that it becomes too hard for F1 to say no to them, because look how far they got already. I've read tweets of people saying, at the minute we have a team that doesn't have a spare chassis, so they have to run one car, and we have a team that doesn't have equipment to do fast pit stops, but we're not letting Andretti in, who wants to spend $500 million to get into the sport, which is a valid argument. So yeah, I think it's a gutsy move of the global Andretti firm, and yeah, I'm quite positive, and I'm hoping that they'll get it done. And then either way, if they're successful, then we can say, here, they F1 didn't want those guys in, and now they're doing really well. And if they suck, then we can say, oh well, look at those stupid Americans with their big mouths trying to get into F1, and now they're last. Either way, it'll be content for videos. So yeah, that's my rant about Andretti. And now I'm going to the chat, see what all I've missed. Okay. And Victor says, Alonso is one of these guys that should have... Oh, no, I've already read that one. I've read that one too. Yes, haha, I get you, First it says, did you know Alonso growing up? No, I didn't know Alonso growing up. And Jason says, I want 4 more hours of straight Alonso chat, even though I have to go in 10 minutes. You don't have to go, Jason. You're on holiday. I hope Andretti buys Alpine. Yeah, but how would that work? They just invested in a huge big building, and then if they take over Alpine, I'm sure they'll take over everything in Enstone. So, with Andretti buying this building, and I don't think they're gonna buy out Alpine. Alpine just needs to get the finger out and start driving, start getting a better car. And Vic says, yes, now here's a topic. Alpine will sell up lock and stock multiple smoking barrels until next time. Versus says, so will they make an F3 and F2 team? Well, I've heard that Andretti is trying to get that sorted as well, which would be a great start, if they're led into those categories and we can measure how well they do there, then who knows? And Vic says, has anyone here actually driven any form of Renault? I rest my case. And Versa is trying to speak Dutch. He says, voor al je ideeën. He says, for all your ideas. Okay. Patrick says, I think buying Alpine would be the best move. I agree, Jason. And Patrick says, Versa, no, just an F1 team, I think. Okay. Versa says, Wheelsports Malaki wanted to reach out to you on Discord. I'm sure Malaki and Jason talk to each other all the time on through emails. He's quite famous, Malaki, on the Wheelsport channel. Versa says, but Andretti are planning to be a works team with Cadillac, and they seem well above water if you compare them to Haas and Williams. I agree, but doesn't guarantee anything though. First says there's a guy called Alex Palou who's rapid. I think Alex Palou is Mexican. No, who's dominating in the car and has been linked to McLaren and Williams, and he's not getting the opportunity he needs. And Jason says remove Haas and put Andretti in. Yeah. Yeah, Haas hasn't brought anything. They don't even have a fun team boss anymore. Haas look good now because Williams and RB have struggled a bit over the off-season with big changes, but Haas is unwilling to invest, so they'll be back to last by the end of the season. And Jason says, sell Enstone for parts. Well, Jason, I'm not going to say you're wrong because, I'll probably get proven wrong myself then, just like with Alonso. So I'm just going to say, wait and see. To me, it doesn't make sense to invest hugely in a big building and then buy a company out with all the stuff in place already. Vic says, Gene Haas is an absolute chancer compared to the Andretti empire. Yeah, that's true. I think there's more racing blood in Andretti. Like Mario Andretti is a world champion. I think is he even a 3-time world champion? Somebody in the chat will know. Jason says, I got a bill into town here. Great chat as always, man. Don't forget to leave a like, folks. And Versa says, he's a Spaniard. Haha. I did email Hank, and Hank reacted, but I think he's doing something else, which is unfortunate. Okay, next topic. Okay, well, this is GP Fans, which is pretty much the worst F1 site out there. But I'll read it out anyway. Verstappen reveals doubts about potential 2025 teammate. The driver market has flung wide open by Lewis Hamilton when he announced his move to Ferrari for 2025, leaving an empty seat at Mercedes. Team principal Toto Wolff has expressed publicly that he's keen to sign Verstappen to the team. Whilst the Dutch driver looks certain to remain at Red Bull, this has not stopped the people debating whether the team's lineup will change in 2025. Verstappen reveals Fernando Alonso doubts. Well, that's been proven now because Alonso re-signed, and I think at the time he already knew that. But Carlos Sainz is a good option, and I made a video about Carlos Sainz going to Red Bull, which I would really enjoy. So recently Verstappen has questioned whether it would be right to move for Red Bull to sign Alonso, arguing it would be strange due to his age. And he added, I don't care who sits next to me. I also said that to the team. I always believe in myself, and in my opinion, I am the boss of everyone. But if you ask me, I would find it strange to sign a 42-year-old driver. Red Bull has always had a tradition of training young drivers himself. The signing of Sergio Perez was a departure from that trend, especially with the 42-year-old driver. I can get along with Fernando, but that's not it. But I also look at the future of the team. So yeah. So my question is, oh, I can maybe put that in the chat here. Okay. Okay. Who will be next to Max 2025? Oh, will Sainz? So yeah, my question is, who do you think will be in the seat next to Max? And then while we're at it, talking about filling up seats, um, who's gonna take the Mercedes seat, and who will be next to Alonso? That's a big question. Ferrari's full up and McLaren is full up now with long contracts. So yeah, um, most pragmatic would be if Perez would just stay and he would just come in second every time he needs to come in second. But then what happened in Australia, where Max DNF'd and Perez came in fifth, that's the sort of stuff that he needs to prevent. Because he should have been on the podium and preferably winning. So, yeah. Another thing is that um, um, if you're going to replace Perez, who are you going to do it with? Well, I made a video last week saying that I'd love to see Sainz in that position, and for the main reason that Sainz is that good that he will be close to Max and he will fill up, he will grab all the points that Max doesn't get in case Max doesn't win. And with Leclerc being in a much faster than this year Ferrari again next season, hopefully, we'll have a title fight. And it may be very important for Sainz to be behind Verstappen for pit strategies, and it is important for Sainz to win races that Max can't win or come in second, because every time a 1-2 happens, the gap to the competition gets bigger. Now, the Mercedes seat, I have Antonelli there because Mercedes is fifth at the minute, and they're pretty much the fifth fastest car on track. If they have an upgrade that will work for them, then they'll be third fastest, and they're still not in a championship. So next season, if they put in Antonelli, then Antonelli can get used to F1 the same way Max Verstappen got used to F1 when he was at Red Bull in 2016. He was there in a potentially fast car, made all the mistakes that he needed to make without throwing away a championship or throwing away the championship of a teammate. So I think it's an ideal situation where Antonelli in a top team with lower pressure can get used to everything that you need to know. That he can get used to F1 in a much more relaxed setting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, what other position do you have? Oh yeah, Lance Stroll. Now, Lance Stroll. Yeah, we've been saying it for 3-4 years, but especially since 2022, when the Aston Martin became a good car in 2023, it became much more clear that Stroll isn't the right driver for that team. And yeah, I think his father needs to make a harsh decision and let him do something else. And the possibility is there for him to do something else when he goes to WEC. I actually know a guy that works for the Aston Martin WEC team. So I'm going to email him and see what he has to say about it. But yeah, it's interesting. Let me go to the chat. Um, so yeah, we talked about Hank. Versa says, to be fair, is you see the car Alpine produced, I don't think there's any good in that factory. Well, I think with the low point that they are now, um, they're gonna get one or two upgrades and they're gonna work somewhat, and then they're gonna be scoring points again. In my preseason predictions, I had them finishing P8, so, and I think that that's still a viable option. And Gentile says Mario won in 1978, I think. Yeah, Niki Lauda won in 1977, the year I was born. And Versus says Mario Andretti has only one world championship. Okay. So guys, what do you think? Who will be next to Max? Do you guys have any other options than Saints? Oh, hey Hank. Yeah, we've been going for 45 minutes. I'm sorry. I still have a whole topic to do though, about the China race. At the minute, we're talking about who will fill up the seat in Red Bull. Is Perez gonna be replaced, and by who? Who's gonna take up the Mercedes seat, and who will replace Lance Stroll, or is Lance Stroll gonna stay? So, what do you think, Hank? Take it away. Everybody, talk to Hank. And Vic says, I think Perez will do enough this season to be in the second seat. It all depends on the Audi stuff. I can't see Sainz at Merck. Well, there is a rumor going on that he's already signed a 2-year deal, which will free him up in time to start with Audi in 2026. And that will kind of suit Antonelli as well if Antonelli goes to Williams to get used to the sport. So those are all options too. I hope Hank hasn't started from the start, and he will hear us talk about him in 45 minutes. Maybe somebody needs to say it in the chat that he needs to skip ahead so it becomes live. Oh no, there's Hank. Next to Max, the only better option is Sainz. Yeah. Hope it happens, because I'll give some fireworks as well. Carlos Sainz Sr. and Jos Verstappen, they will be punching each other and stuff, which would be cool to see. So yeah. But every other week we're gonna have more Formula One silly season news, which is gonna be awesome. I love it. It's gonna be so good. So I'm just gonna wait about 30 seconds to see if there's any more questions or more comments about this topic, and then I'll start on the next one. The last one, we're gonna be talking about China. No more chat. Okay, I'm clicking it away now. Here we go. Okay, so everybody knows that next week's race is in Shanghai after it wasn't on the calendar for 5 years due to COVID and other political stuff. And it's the first time that we're going to be racing on that bumpy track. So Shanghai needs to do something. So I'm going to read out a few bits. Shanghai works to remove bumps ahead of F1 return. The Shanghai Formula One circuit has completed work to grind down some of the surface bumps ahead of the return of the Chinese Grand Prix next week. They will be racing there for the first time since 2019. And it's interesting because it's the first time the new ground effect cars will have driven there. The current generation of F1 machinery is more sensitive to bumps, which are a common feature at the Shanghai venue because the track is built on swampland. So ground movement is common. Yeah, it's more about how they're going to grind down things. And the Pirelli Formula One chief engineer Simone Berra explained recently that China was effectively being treated like a new event because previous knowledge was of little relevance. It's like a new circuit, honestly, said Berra when asked by Motorsport.com the return to China. Because we have new cars, new tires, the 18-inch rims. The track was really not used in 5 years. It was just used for one race per year or something like that. So it will be really green and quite dirty, although obviously they will clean the track. And we need to understand that even from tarmac measures pre-event, how it has changed. In the past, it was quite rough in terms of both micro and macro roughness. We need to understand how aging has gone in the last years. So not much data, and even for the teams it will be a big challenge, not just for us, but for the teams even more probably. Shanghai officials are also working on new grandstands for the sellout crowd, although some areas will not be ready for this year's race. Now, if you hear all this, if you hear all this, all the problems they might have on this new circuit, or on this old circuit, but for the first time in 5 years, you'd say give the teams a lot of time for free practice. Even make it 3 1.5 hour sessions of practice, so at least they have an understanding of everything. But instead, F1 has decided to make this a sprint weekend. So the teams are going to have one practice session, and then they're going to go into I think they're going to do it different this year. They're going to have a quali session, and then on Saturday. No, wait. Yeah, they're going to do qualifying in the afternoon. Then they're going to do the sprint race in the morning. Then qualifying for the race after the sprint. Something like that. I need to look that up. But anyway, it's like F1 is trying to make the weekend as complicated and put the teams in as much peril as possible to force them into an exciting race. But with Verstappen and Red Bull having such understanding of their car already, it could be the case that they have solved their problem in the first free practice session already, and then they'll go ahead and win the sprint and the race and put the car on pole. So it's just it feels forced and it doesn't feel good. And God forbid that somebody might get a proper accident and break a leg or something, because then people will be pointing at Liberty Media and FOM and F1 for putting them through that danger of a track that hasn't been used for 5 years with completely new cars and then making it a sprint weekend. The drivers are already complaining about, um, yeah, that they're doing a sprint weekend on this track. I think it could also be for commercial reasons because China is a huge market and the crowd has sold out. So they want to give a big, massive spectacle for the Chinese fans in the stands so they can sell out even more next year. But yeah, it's not good. So let me go to the chat. Hallo Matthijs. Alles goed jongen? Okay, let me go to the chat and see what's happening here. Vic says, yeah, I know, but that's from Merc Fanfiction Merchant. I don't know what that was about. Hank says, next to Max, the only better option is Saints. Oh, I already read that. If he signs for Audi, Perez stays. Yeah, that's what I think so too. But it would be such a waste to see Saints in that shitty state car for a year. That there's barely anything in it. And Vic says, hope so, by the way. My car number is VW55ver. Okay. Hank says, hi, Samantha. No pressure, indeed. Wasn't it not completely refurbished? Well, in this article from F1 itself, and it's a recent article, it said that they just fixed the bumps. I hope they've, fixed the drain covers as well to prevent that happening. Someone says, Hank, you handled it like a pro. And Hank smiles. Vic says, by the way, I was trying to find out how much any racing has taken place since COVID and that. I honestly can't find anything. It's going to be like a skating rink with rumble strips. Track evolution will be massive. Yeah, so all these things, you could say, oh, that's going to make it exciting. But if the teams are really careful and they drive like 20 miles slower, just to make sure everything goes okay, then that will not cause a great race. And what if Williams crashes both cars? Are they not going to race the whole race then if they do it in the sprint? Vic says, I couldn't find a reliable website for fuck's sake. And Hank says, FOM sees unpredictability as sport. So we're the pinnacle of motorsport with these massive, sophisticated machines with computers logged in, with teams of 900 people watching races to get the best strategy. And what does FOM do? Hey, let's put them on a track that hasn't been used for 5 years with much larger cars and just see what happens. It doesn't make any sense. Hank says, sport is performance on top of abilities of sporters. Yes, but it's very hard to show your abilities if you're on a track that's slippery. And there's Pat Quakernat. How many more races before Ricciardo gets axed and Lawson gets in? I think this will happen in the summer break. Traditionally, this is what Red Bull does. Just like, actually, Nick de Vries got kicked out 2 races before the summer break. So, but it's gonna happen. Hank says drain covers are something to be aware of. These cars suck like mad, and Hank means the downforce that is created through the ground effect will suck air up like mad. And that's why drain covers come loose. Hank says, hi, Versatile. And Versatile says, pinnacle of motorsport with loose drain covers and sausage curbs. And Vic says, the answer, Wim, is China. Money. Money, 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 money. Yeah, that's always the answer, isn't it? So, yeah. China. I am looking forward to it. And, you know, I used to like sprint weekends. Then I heard all the arguments against it. And then I didn't like it. But then I did enjoy it in Austria because I was there. So on track, a sprint race is much more fun than a free practice. Yeah, I will be on top of everything next weekend. I probably skipped the live stream next weekend because it's going to be a busy Formula One weekend anyway. With free practice and sprints and two quali sessions and a race on Sunday early in the morning. So I'll probably need to go to bed in time. So yeah, let's go and do the chat for another, say, 5 minutes before I stop the stream. And I'm sorry about the hiccup at the start. One on the plus side, I couldn't get the advertisements in, so you probably didn't get any breaks with ads. I'll be missing out on my 60 cents that I usually get for a live stream. So, first says China 2018 was one of Ricciardo's best races. Yeah, I think that was his last win for Red Bull as well. And then he won another one with McLaren in Monza, and that was it. Yeah, I'm still hoping that Ricciardo will find, his groove again all of a sudden. But to me, everything I'm hearing is much more like what I've been hearing from him in the McLaren years, where the team, didn't build him the car that he liked, and he can't gel with the car, and it's much more of the same. And I think for the Red Bull sister team, they wanted to get a couple of big sponsors in, and Visa Cash App, they thought Ricciardo in that seat was very profitable, so they stepped in. But yeah, if the results aren't there, then you might as well put Lawson in, who's feisty and he wants to come in. And Vic says MotoGP is going to find this out as well in the next 12 months. And Hank says, yeah, Wim, you got it. I don't know what I've got, but I've got it. Versa says, I hate sprint races. Bring back the very first format. Yeah, like I said, I'm on two minds about sprint races. If you're on the track, a sprint race is much more fun than a free practice. And since you have to pay like 400 or 500 euros to be there a whole weekend, and another 400 or 500 euros to travel to Austria or any other of the other places, then you might as well be entertained as best as you can. Hank says, nothing against sprint races on sick, but sprint races predict the GP. That's another big topic. Usually what you see in a sprint race with teams dropping off because the tire degradation is heavy, you're going to know that that's going to be even worse in the race. So, yeah, the whole magic of a Grand Prix, the main event, is wasted a little bit because you know already what's happening in the sprint. Versa says, second last win, but those overtakes were breathtaking. Hank was up all night. Okay. And Versa says, I'm getting glimpses of McLaren Ricciardo. At least his smile isn't gone. No, well, that's the only thing that he always keeps doing, smiling. You know, I'd rather see him really pissed off and perform again instead of always goofing around. Hank says the last thing I do not recall. Yeah, Hank doesn't stay up all night. He sleeps like a baby. Sprint races just cause logistical issues and cause chaos with one free practice, and then they blame rookies for crashing. Oh my god, that's another thing. Like Logan Sargent can't keep it on the track that he's already been, let alone China on a slippery green track. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And Vic says, Season 1, P1, Drive to Survive. Probably the most honest interpretation of Rick and his calculations. And the only episode I would recommend it. It was a proper watch and all episode before it got all media savvy. Yep. So yeah, that was a nice little hour of chat. I'll just wait a couple of more minutes to see if there's more questions or comments or a topic that anybody wants to talk about. And if not, then I'll log out. There's no chat. The first format with 3 practice sessions, a quali to determine where you start the sprint, and then a sprint to decide where you start. First, I don't think that what you just described has ever been a format. When it started in 2021, they had one practice session. Then there was qualifying for the sprint. Then there was a sprint that result was also the qualifying, so it was sprint qualifying. And then the race day stayed the same. That's how they used to do it. But the problem with that was that teams were very careful not to lose any positions in the sprint race. They weren't taking any risk because if you damage a wing, you're starting from P20. And yeah, nobody wanted that, obviously. So Hank says, you got the sucking joke, Wim. Yeah, I got that one right. Versa says, it's all the more incentive for teams as drivers get both points and a good place for the race based on where you begin. Yeah, but it didn't work that way, though. And, these rule changes were done, while talking to teams and drivers. And they were the ones that said, we want the sprint to be completely loose from the race, because if you fuck up the sprint, then you can still have a result in the race instead of having a whole weekend ruined. Yeah, Hank doesn't agree with it. He says, please, no. It's like a 400-kilometer race with a mandatory red flag. Remember Brazil 2021? Um, Versa says, that's still better than what we have now. One practice session, 2 qualies, a sprint, and a race. Yeah. But I think they made they changed something. I can probably look it up. F1 sprint format 2024. What's new for 2024? The format of an F1 sprint weekend has changed for the 2024 season. Um, yeah. So what they're doing now is free practice session, then qualifying for the sprint. Then on Saturday we'll have the sprint, and then they fix the cars up again, and they do a quali session for the race. That's how they're gonna do it. First says, yeah, but without the format, Brazil 2021 would have been a snooze fest. Well, if in Brazil 2021 there wasn't a sprint weekend, then Hamilton would have got disqualified for having a gap in his wing too big, and he would have started the race from P20, and then he wouldn't have caught Verstappen in time, because I think it was lap 58 before Hamilton did get Verstappen. So that would have been better. Hank says, just no sprints. Is it so hard? Yeah. Is it so hard to understand? No sprints. And Vic says, before I go, if there isn't a Wimbo Reviews the Cult at Monza 2025 episode, then I'm out of here, because it will be comedy gold. The Cult at Monza 2025. So are you expecting a clash between Team LH and Team CL? But anyway, I've been at it for an hour and 10 minutes now. I think this will do nicely. We'll keep in touch. I'll post something here and there. I'm working on a nice video about an old team, a 1994 team. And I'll probably make a video about Lance Stroll. I think it's time to do a Lance Stroll video again. And then before you know it, we'll be watching racing again. So everybody, thank you for joining. And I'll see you all the next time. Doei doei. Take care.